What are we talking about?
Stuff. What are we?
People.
We the people?
We the people.
What are you?
A man?
A man with morals? So that's what we are. We're the men with morals. So here we are. We're here to talk to you about the hot topic of the day, the week, of the foreseeable past few years, I guess, depending on the media you watch. Gun control.
Do guns kill people? Or do people kill people?
You know what's the best gun control? Finger discipline. Not saying that there isn't gun violence, but there's a stretch to our rights.
Yeah, it's definitely sad to see everything that's going on in the world nowadays. But at the same time, it's a lot more than the gun's fault.
Correct. Comes down to how people are raised, what they come from, and what they do with what they've learned from while they were being raised.
Yeah, I don't blame the gun, you know.
No.
People can write a letter, a nasty letter to someone, you can't blame your pencil. People get hit with a car, you can't blame the car, it was the operator,
Correct.
right? A little responsibility, a little accountability.
Is this your ball?
Yes, it is.
It struck my foot.
Doug!
Need I say more?
Keep
Guns
your
don't kill
balls
people.
Off of my feet.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Guns don't automatically fire. Trigger has to be pulled. I guess there is the freak, psycho, random accident where a weapon malfunctions. But how many deaths do you find where the weapon malfunctions cause death?
How many times have you heard of a vehicle being charged for manslaughter? The vehicle doesn't get charged, it's the person. It's the person's actions. It's whatever they got going on. You know, maybe some of these people need a little help. Maybe that's part of the problem.
A little bit, but let's go back. Let's go way back to our founding fathers. That was a long time ago, 1787. You know, when was this country born? Need I say more? So, the Constitution was set forth by our founding fathers as a guidelines for our country to follow. But the country shouldn't fall forth to these crazy setups that the government's trying to do right now with laws that are proposed to take away our
constitutional rights.
rights
That
set
people
forth
fought for.
that people fought, died
Our freedom.
for years and years and years. So let's highlight a few things here. So what was the big thing about the checks and balances in government? Stuff like that, you know, really complex stuff.
Well, why the Constitution was created? Don't skip the first part either.
Oh, which part?
The first part.
What, this part?
Yeah. Constitution, as it drafted by the convention, was to create a government with enough power to act on a national level, but without so much power that fundamental rights would be at risk.
So what does that mean, Brandon?
Don't tread on me.
On a national level.
Don't impede on my rights and my freedoms. Back off with your agenda. Surprised I don't have an agenda on cars right now. You know, they're killing almost as many people as firearms.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they don't tell you about that. That's not on the news because it's not an agenda. Gotta
See-
love media too, right?
See, this whole channel is about our rights to be able to talk and say whatever we want. There's a limitation to everything, of course, but we have a right to believe what we want to believe, hence the First Amendment. I mean, that's pretty clear and cut. We have a right and freedoms to exercise religions and beliefs that we have. Freedom of speech, the press.
So I have the right to exercise my beliefs
Correct.
without those rights and freedoms being impeded on.
Correct. Which is what we are doing right now. So being that we have that right to talk about this stuff, we are absolutely open for discussion. If anyone wants to argue against us or for us, we'd gladly talk about it.
Joe Rogan wants to be on the channel.
Hashtag Joe Rogan. But we're really here to talk about the these mass shootings, gun violence, and so forth going on right now, and why it's such a huge push to go after just one aspect of what is causing deaths across the world. The right to bear arms is our right. We have the Second Amendment right, which is our right to bear arms. So if the government wants to go after our right to bear arms, they're going against the Constitution. I can't see a Supreme Court that would vote against that right.
The arms don't do the homicide. The arms aren't committing the crimes. The people are.
Correct.
You know, let's quit being a snowflake society and let's be real about this and, you know, open your eyes.
But the big debate about it is gun control. Is gun control really going to affect anything to do with reducing the crime rates? And I don't see how.
If people control their guns.
Well, people can control the guns that they have in their hands or on their
people,
persons.
right?
Yes, the people.
The people.
But how they get their guns is what's in effect here. And if my right to go out, let's say I want to go to a sporting goods store and go buy a 22 long rifle. They want to go after that right. And that's a problem. Or an AR or whatever. They want to go after that right because there were people shot. But what they don't talk about is that how these people are obtaining their guns is majority stolen in crimes. You can look at select crimes, but
Yeah, a lot of your statistics are going to show, unfortunately, that most gun crimes are being committed by criminals on other criminals.
correct. Gang on gang violence is out the roof, but there's no real discipline for them right now. So if they just get slapped on the wrist, they go out, let's say they stab someone, shoot someone, they're back out pretty quick. And then they go out and do it again. And then they're back out again pretty quick. You know what I mean pretty quick? A couple months is very quick in my eyes, is insanely fast for something like that. But
You know, I just want to remind people, we're not sitting here trying to undermine the effects of these situations that people go through. It's sad when someone dies for any reason.
correct.
You know, like there are a lot of sad situations out there, but people need to look at the real root cause of the problem. You know, so
I mean, if Chicago isn't enough, crime in Chicago isn't enough to show that there's a much bigger problem than just gun violence. Crime rates in Chicago are at the roof because the lack of leadership, the lack of law enforcement, and they keep wanting to tie the hands of the law enforcement in the world right now with any way they possibly can. And that's a problem. So me being in law enforcement, my hands get tied all the time with very nitpicky stuff, and that's very frustrating. You know, I arrest a guy that just sexually assaulted someone, and they're back out in 2 days. Don't you see a problem with that? But back on, that's a conversation for a completely different time. Back onto the gun violence and homicides.
one thing quick, you know, there's a lack of a lot of stuff, but
Give me that.
there's a lack of opportunity for some of these people too, you know, and some of this is a direct reflection on society. You know, people are acting out. Society is not doing all that well. You know.
But I thought Joe said everything's doing great right now.
Yeah, and we're not in a recession either, right?
Yeah. And he
We're just
doesn't
waiting
fall
for it.
upstairs
Yeah.
either.
Go shake hands with the ghost.
Touch his hairy legs in the pool.
Yeah. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. But there's a lot more to just gun violence. There's alcohol, drugs. It all ties in. Gang violence. It all relates together. So if you have high gang violence, there's going to be a high homicide rate. Sure, a homicide might be caused by a gun. But that isn't the root cause.
Even unfortunately, suicides.
Correct.
You know?
And suicides are a massive problem right now, and that's where mental illness comes in too. And we're not dealing with that. I can tell you 100% facilities around my area
Don't
are
offer the help
dwindling,
people need.
dwindling down to nothing because they don't have, for one, the manpower to deal with it. Manpower costs money. These hospitals make billions and billions of dollars, but they can't afford to offer some assistance for mental health.
So who deals with it?
We do on the streets by
And then it
people
ends
getting
up,
killed.
instead of people getting help, they end up more so to where it's just going to jail or to prison too, right?
Correct.
You know, does that really solve the issue?
No. These people actually need help, and I'd love to be there to help them. But when my hands get tied up with all this legislation that they keep passing, more and more and more stuff ties us up. That's a problem. But the guns aren't the only problem here, is where we're getting at with this. I mean, here's a stat from, this is the closest thing I could find for current. If you guys find more, link it please. But for 2019, clearly guns are a big issue in homicide rates. But there's much more than guns that cause problems out there. You know, 25% are caused by knives, blunt weapons, fists, so on. Assault rifles account for 2.6%, and that's what they're going after right now.
Yeah, they cause less deaths than bare hands, right?
Pretty interesting.
Knuckles are deadlier than rifles.
I mean, I'll give
Depends
some
whose hands they're in,
I'll
right?
give some credit to unknown weapon types. I mean, so let's say even off the charts, if it was 25, 26%, that's still on the same line as everything else. So are you going to ban hammers? You going to ban knives? If you go for one thing, you got to go for everything. And that's just not going to happen. You have a right to all this stuff. As a law-abiding citizen, you have a right to anything you want in retrospect within the means of our constitutional rights.
Let's put it this way: how do you think gun deaths compare to automotive deaths? If they were trying to take away your guns, let's go a step back a second here, even further. We're giving guns to a country that's at war right now, right? So they can
Yes.
fight for their freedoms
Yes.
and their rights,
Yes.
but they're trying to take ours away.
Correct.
Us free Americans that, I mean, does that bother you?
It does.
I hope it does. Hope it bothers a lot of people.
I don't know how accurate these stats are, but I'm sure they're somewhat within a reasonably close. But motor vehicle deaths are
Well, that's the source from Senator CDC.
pretty close.
I mean, if you got your COVID stats, maybe they're as accurate as your COVID stats. Maybe they're not, but
so within a few thousand, you're talking combined just shy of 80,000 deaths in 2019.
but
Cars and firearms combined, and they're about equal. But cars are allowed to go. wherever they
careful.
want.
That doesn't fit the agenda, but that might be the next agenda. They might try and take the cars away too.
What agenda?
The agenda, the one pushed by media and by government and Big Brother
The media pushes agenda?
for somebody.
I didn't know they did. I would have to watch the media.
Yeah, you don't hear about that on the nightly news every night. You don't.
Do your research is all I have to say, people. I mean, it takes all of a few clicks to find at least a somewhat valid source. You know, again, this is from the CDC. I don't know how much more accurate you want me to go with this, but
Yeah, be open-minded. Do your research. Don't believe everything we say either. Go ahead and check it. Do your research.
the other part I wanted to dig into was the weapons that are stolen. You know, you talk about all the gun violence right now, gang violence. People are going to get their guns regardless of what you do. If they want to go after someone, they're just going to find a weapon to do it with. You know, if Bob down the street has a problem with me and he goes off the deep end because he has some mental illness going on and decides I'm going to go after my neighbor Bill, he's going to find a way to do it if he so wants to do it.
Gun or no gun.
Gun or no gun.
Right.
A gun might be the best way for him to take it out, because they are definitely a very lethal way to go after someone. I mean, talk about deadly force. That is definitely deadly force.
Cars are almost just as lethal, though, right?
Yep. You could drive at him with a car. You could smash his head with the hammer. You can do whatever you want. But the fact is, how they're going to get the weapons can be stolen, borrowed from a friend. There's stats that I saw where, you know, less than, 18% of guns that were used in homicides were bought legally in a store or in a trade show.
And how many were repeat offenders?
A lot.
So criminals.
And that ties into the recidivism rates that I have to deal with all the time.
So instead of going after criminals, they want to go after law-abiding citizens.
Correct.
Right?
Your law-abiding citizens that are legally owning their guns, keeping them in proper places, stored properly, in a locked container, in a safe, in a holster, not flailing around like a moron out in the streets. Need I say more?
You mean it doesn't do all that stuff on its own?
It does not do it on its own. You have to mechanically pull that trigger. When the trigger's pulled, locks back, hits the firing pin on the primer. Primer ignites the gunpowder. Gunpowder propels the bullet.
You know, sometimes you got to wonder why all this stuff's going on, too. You know, you can talk about agenda, you can talk about the mental side of things, you can talk about society in general, but
You can talk about gang violence, drug use, alcohol abuse. We can get into this. This is a pretty scary stat, guys. This is just drug overdose deaths, right? From the CDC. All right? Only 20-ish years ago, we were at around 20,000 deaths a year, annually. Mind you, no death from overdose should be acceptable. But we are fivefold and rising at this point right now. Just from 2019 to 2020, it's a 25% jump. And it's just going up at a rate that's insurmountable. I mean, that blows my mind.
agenda.
So what are we going to do about it? Are we just going to sit by and let it happen, or are we going to actually talk about it? And that's why we want to talk about it. 100,000 plus deaths a year. How is that supposed to be acceptable? How can this administration currently right now, or any administration, look at a stat like that and say there's not a problem?
You know, and the whole reason we're talking about this stuff is people need to talk about this stuff. It needs to be out there. You know, past what the media wants, past the agenda. But it needs to be talked about. Because if you don't talk about it, it's got to, you know, an idea starts somewhere. Past the idea, there's action. If people don't do something about this, where's it going to go?
But what can we do? We can elect people in that we think are actually going to help this. Mind you, there really isn't a whole lot of politicians out there that aren't very corrupted. And the evidence is pretty damning on both sides of the fence right now. I'm hard pressed to find a whole lot of politicians that aren't corrupted. Once they're in and they're making their millions off the insider trading, come on, tell me that doesn't happen. You're telling me people like Nancy Pelosi having a net worth of over $400 million? Well, sorry, Paul Pelosi, who hasn't worked at all, his net worth is over $400 million just magically.
Yeah, go on SenateStockWatcher.com.
Yeah, let's do that right now.
Because, because they have insider trading, legally they have to post all their investments.
Senate Stock Watcher.
If you people know anything about how much politicians make, and then you see how much they're worth, kind of make you scratch your brain a little bit.
I've actually never been on here. It's an interesting site.
So you can look up your senators.
So let's look up someone.
You
Who's
can
the
see what
current
they're
senator?
invested in. You can see their trades, their values, their spouses. You'd be surprised how many people are invested. How many of our senators are invested in?
Look at this. Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Republican. Let's look at this guy. Tommy Tuberville from
Let's look at
Alabama.
the worth of their investments once.
Trade
What's that say?
value of $19 million.
And what's their income? Their salary?
Shouldn't be that. U.S. Senator income 2022. Pretty damning, isn't it?
Wow, how did they make so much?
When you got a guy that should be making, which is an asinine amount of money, by the way.
You think they're selling us out? Does anybody feel like they're being sold out in this country? Because I kind
I
of do.
think so.
I feel that way a lot.
I think that's a talk for a different day. But to wrap it up, there's much more problem than just a gun. The whole society as a whole is a problem right now. Our society is accepting of far too much crazy beliefs. I'm sorry, I can't change my identity by just saying I'm something else. Doesn't work that way.
The youth is being not taught the morals and the values that were taught by other generations.
You know, I was raised in a family of faith. You know, we were founded on faith, based our beliefs on faith. And everyone has beliefs growing up. But
you have the rights and the freedoms to those, right?
we have our rights to be able to have those beliefs. But people today are too absorbed by TikTok videos that show, a snippet of the problem or a snippet of a belief and take it out of context. So we're going to try and bring it back in context in a very simplistic way of just sitting here talking about it. This is completely unscripted. We go through a topic, pull up a couple videos and a little information on it, and we're just going to go with it. But hopefully you guys enjoy this stuff. But when it all comes down to it, what's the best weapon in your arsenal?
It was all the protection we needed. You win some, you lose some. But you live to fight another day. And you think you're a man with that gun in your hand, don't you? I'm a man without it.
Damn straight. You don't need the gun to be a man.
Nope.
You just need to be a man to be a man.
That's right.
And how are you a man, Brandon?
Still a man.
Still a man. Well, hopefully you guys that have sat through this absolute conundrum of chaos, we're very unscripted, like we said.
Like and subscribe.
Hit that like and subscribe button.
I'll try and get some more videos out for you guys.
We'll get some more going. Deuces.
It's going to be a little political, but
That's what it's about.
that's what it's about.